Welcome everybody to our weekly CCRR and Early Learning Partners meeting, and just want to take a moment to start this off a little differently than we normally do. And I know that many of you, I've spoken to several of you on the phone or over email in the last week, and there's a significant amount that's going on for your communities and your staff and yourselves individually. And I think we just want to take a moment of pause as we step into this meeting today, because there is still agenda items that we want to kind of walk through and give you additional information, but we also want to recognize where we all are in our current processing and space and what's going on for each of us. And so Joan is offered to kind of kick off with a brief connection opportunity. And so I'll turn it over to you, Joan.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Really great to see all of you, and feeling like it would be helpful to all of us just to have a sense of where everybody is. And so would like to offer the opportunity to have a check-in process this morning, and wanting to keep it very simple. We're really talking about just sharing, one word, at most 2 words about how you're doing, so that we can all have a sense of kind of where everybody is as we head into this conversation with each other today. And of course, folks can choose to pass if you don't want to participate. Always an option to pass, but I hope that you will choose to do so. The way that I have seen this work best is that, and I'll model, is that then the person who's shared then identifies the next person to share. So it doesn't put John or I in a place where we're trying to call on everyone, that we're each kind of taking a turn to do that. So I would say where my word where I am right now is concerned, is how I am feeling this morning about many things. So, and I'm going to ask John to go next.
Thanks, Joan. Hold on, I'm seeing Taya said, can you make the screen so we can see faces? Oh, I can get rid of the screen share. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Good. Oh, that's just my screen. Sorry, let's try this again.
Yay.
How's that? Better?
Better.
Okay, so how am I feeling? I am feeling thoughtful and sometimes paralyzed.
And who are you going to ask to go next, John?
Let's pick on Dorit. She was smiling.
That'll teach me. I'm feeling extra locked down, more than I thought I could be. And I will pick on Hannah.
I'm going to say stuck and overwhelmed. And I'm going to pick on Lindsay Free.
I'm going to go with uneasy. And I'll choose Cass.
I have a little bit of feeling of uneasy, but then also optimistic. I've seen a lot of support all around the state to help people during this time of crisis, and so that's kind of what gets things to be okay. Thank you. And I would pick Carrie Wells.
I'm feeling, I guess, thankful. The people that I know that have been affected are safe right now.
And who do you want to pick, Carrie, to go next?
Sorry, I'm also feeling overwhelmed.
Totally fine. That's why I'm just gonna gently vote.
I'll choose Karen Hankemeyer.
I feel at times paralyzed, tired, but then incredibly grateful and appreciative. I'm going to pick on Dana.
Hey guys, the webcam limit is reached, so that's why I'm on. My word would be rough. Things are rough. Lauren, I'm gonna pick on you. You're safe.
Hi, everybody. First word that came to mind was heartbroken. I used to live in Talent. That's where I lived before I moved here. My kids grew up there, and it's pretty hard to think about what has happened down there. And Phoenix also. I'm going to pick on Mary Wolf.
I think my word would be vulnerable, and our staff also. And I'll pick on Heather Fardinger.
I think I feel a little numb. Just trying to process and knowing that things still have to get done. So, but also grateful. I'll pick on Taya Jocelyn.
I guess I'm feeling pretty despondent right now. Hate to admit that, but that's just the truth. And then the other side of that is just having a really hard time keeping things straight in my head. I worry that I know I'm losing track of some things. So sorry if some of you are waiting to hear from me.
And Taya, who would you like to pick next?
See, case in point, I had another part of that job. How about Nancy Patton? You didn't go yet, did you?
No worries, Taya. I would say stressed and anxious.
Thanks, Nancy. And who would you?
And I picked Shannon.
Me? I didn't hear.
Shannon, yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably pick a number of your words. First, I'm inspired. Just even from hearing some of the things other directors are doing, helping at United Way, just seeing the people coming in from our communities. Also numb and overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. And Shannon, who will you pick to go next?
How about Lynette?
Hi, I'm feeling restless and moved. And I choose Sydney. I'd say hollow. That's just how I'm feeling it in my body.
Mm-hmm. And who will you pick, Sydney, to go next?
Oh, I will pick Jessica.
I'd say I'm feeling overwhelmed, yet grateful, and I will choose Andy.
I would say I feel imbalanced, and I feel a need to focus on gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I choose to check in on Melinda.
I too choose gratefulness because of the anxiety that I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm. And Melinda, who will you choose?
I will choose Karen Crow.
Feeling a lot, and I think I'm feeling fatigue from feeling so much, and feeling pretty scattered. And I will choose Paula.
Well, I'm feeling very frustrated, but very hopeful. And I choose Carmen.
I feel worried. Just really worried. And I would like to pass to Candy.
Okay. So many great words. I'm typing them as you're saying them. It's quite a collection because it's definitely the full spectrum of feelings, right? It's all the feels. So I'm feeling many of those things, but I would say the two things that have come up mostly so far this week are hopeful and fragile. And I will choose, have we heard from, Danae.
Hi, everybody. I am literally feeling butterflies right now listening to everybody. So there's a little bit of anxiety, but I will also choose grateful. Grateful that many people are safe, including my son who lives in the Medford area, and grateful for living on the coast right now. So, and I'm going to choose
Danae, we have to have you repeat that because we couldn't hear you. Do you want to type it in the chat? Oop.
It keeps muting me for some reason.
Okay, can you try again?
I keep trying to unmute and then it remutes me. So I chose Pam though.
Okay, great.
Did she say Pam?
She did.
So, gosh, this is harder than I thought it would be. My word is sad. Because my year started out incredibly sad, and it just continues to be sad. So with that said, and I'm so sorry, I don't mean it might be crazy like this, but I'm so grateful also that I have my job still and I have connections. So thank you. And I choose Jerry.
Hey, Pam. I have a sense of what you're feeling. I feel really fragile. I feel like I have my day planned. I went into work this morning. It's so smoky in there that I couldn't be there. And the stress that I felt from that was just immense. And it just reminded me of how fragile I am. I choose Regina.
Good morning, everyone. I feel overwhelmed, but very hopeful for what's to come. And I choose Alma.
Good morning, everyone. I'm feeling helpless and overwhelmed and very, very sad.
Thank you, Alma. Can you tell us who you would like to speak next?
Sure, I will choose Dawn Taylor.
Thank you. I am feeling overwhelmed and proud. Proud of my son and my brother who really stepped in to help fight the fires up here in Silverton, but just overwhelmed with everything that is just going on in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dawn. Who would you like to pick?
Shannon? I think
Oh.
she's gone.
Yeah, we have heard from Shannon.
Naomi?
Naomi.
Good morning, everyone. Right now, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed and also a little bit confined. I like to go out and visit my parents, and right now I can't.
Mm-hmm. Naomi, who would you like to ask to check in?
Robin Lopez.
Hey, everybody. I think overwhelmed is the best way to describe what I'm feeling, or exhausted, probably both. And I think I'll choose Lindsay if she hasn't gone yet. Lindsay Free?
She has. What about Leslie Barnes?
All right, Leslie.
Hi. I'm feeling exhausted.
Totally understandable. Leslie, do you want to think about asking someone else to check in?
The thing is, I haven't kept good track.
Okay, that's totally fine.
I'm trying to get a second word out, but I also feel very thankful. I just couldn't get it out.
Aw, thank you.
I don't know who to pick.
How about Angela Stinson?
Okay, Angela Stinson.
Thanks, Joan and Leslie. I'm, like a lot of you, feeling very pressured, under a lot of pressure right now, and but also very proud to be an Oregonian and a part of a community that really steps up under that pressure.
Thanks, Angela. Have you been tracking who's gone? Are you able to pick someone?
Has Sydney gone yet?
She has. How about Taya Noland?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm feeling tender. I'm feeling tender towards humanity and tender, fragile, vulnerable too. And
Okay.
I was trying to keep track, but I have just lost track entirely.
Jennifer, I don't think has gone yet. Is that true? Jennifer Harras.
I can go because I popped in a little bit late. So hi, everyone. I would say initially I would jump to overwhelmed with the whole idea of like coming back to work after having a baby and finding childcare, which you guys all know that's lots of fun. But then also with our older kids being homeschooled, but also just thankful that, I mean, that we all still have jobs to come into. And thankful that with a lot of the stuff that's been happening, like up in the San Am Canyon, a lot of my friends, I mean, they're okay. They've lost homes and businesses, but they're okay, which is the important part.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And I have no clue who needs to go next.
That's fine. I think the last person is Catherine Jones, unless I missed someone.
Patty Wilson might also
Patty
need to go.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead, Patty, and then we'll have Catherine go last.
I'm feeling crazed. We're doing a lot with the Red Cross and extra food, and all the programs are just insanely busy. So whoever you just named should go next.
Okay. So let me introduce Catherine Jones. She's one of our new members of our ELD team. She's stepping in to manage our grants and operations team. And I can already say she's an exceptional colleague, and I'm thrilled that she's here to talk with you today, but I'll let her share her word. So go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you, Joan. My word is probably today battle worn. Just trying to get kids doing, I have a kindergartner and a first grader and online school and emergency supplies and grants for providers. I feel very battle worn.
So I just want to acknowledge how much we appreciate all of you and your willingness to be completely forthright and vulnerable. I think that says a lot about all of you as leaders and how important it is to be able to have those times and acknowledge our own vulnerability and when we are challenged and overwhelmed. And we will endeavor today not to add to that. Of course, we're not perfect. So if we should inadvertently add to any feeling of overwhelm, I hope you'll call that out so we can address that as best as possible, because we don't seek to be anything but supportive. And of course, we all know we have a tremendous amount of work we're trying to do together to continue to support children and families and childcare providers and communities. So thank you all for showing up today and for everything you're doing. I feel very, very lucky to be able to work with all of you during this time. So thanks again.
Thanks, Joan, for leading that activity. And just because I can't help but try and break tension when I feel it, and otherwise I might cry along with some of the folks that did today. I just have to jump back to my first word, which was thoughtful, which sounded like I complimented myself. And I was thinking more in terms of thoughtful of humanity and what we're going through. And so just wanted to clarify that I would never, ever think to compliment myself. Anybody who knows me well enough knows that that would not happen. So don't want to sound conceited today on top of everything else. So our next agenda item, and I'm glad that Catherine got to kind of introduce some of the work that she's been working on. And she is here to talk to us a little bit about the emergency supplies portal that's gone online officially today or yesterday. Sorry, I'm a day behind already. And then possibly some updates on our grant opportunities. And so, Catherine, we'll turn it over to you. Do you need a screen or anything, Catherine?
I don't think so. I'll ask you, John, if it would be helpful if I walk through the online site. But yesterday officially, but technically it was Friday because we let the link go live and we were testing it. And word gets around really fast. This is my first time working with childcare providers and in this industry, and I am shocked by how well everybody communicates and spreads words very, very quickly. So we launched the site for testing purposes on Friday for us in Business Oregon to test it, and we had over 1,000 orders by the end of the day for childcare supplies. But it officially launched it on Monday. So far we've received 1,700 orders for emergency supplies. We're expecting about 3,200. So we're more than halfway there. But I wanted to let you guys know that we have launched a second wave of emergency supplies to childcare providers to help them observe the COVID-19 guidelines that have been released by the Office of Child Care, and to keep them, their employees, their kids, and families safe. These emergency supplies, we're calling them care packages. They include masks, gloves, disinfectant wipes, baby wipes, thermometers, and they are, again, designed to kind of help people with observe the COVID-19 guidelines. The supplies are free. We allotted a package per childcare provider is what we stocked for. We also devised the packages based on the assumed number of employees, and so we rounded up in almost all cases. And it's targeted to get them through 3 months of the COVID-19 response. So registered families and license exempt families, they have a choice between two types of care packages. One is more infant toddler centric. So if you're changing diapers, you're going to need more gloves, you're going to need baby wipes. And another is more toward school age children, where you wouldn't have as many gloves and you don't have any baby wipes. Certified centers can choose if they want to go the max amount, which is about 1,700 masks, and a couple hundred pairs of gloves. Or if they don't need as much, they can go to a smaller care package if that's what is more suitable for their business. It is prohibited to resell any of these supplies. If we really would encourage them to just get what they need. If they need less than what they received, because we could only do 5 standard care packages, because if we really wanted to customize it, but the more we looked into cost and timelines, you really increase cost and you really increase the time it takes to get to people when you allow them to customize orders to, we can't replicate Amazon very well. So that's why we have 5 standard care packages. And if they do receive more than what they need in that care package, they're encouraged to donate it to other child care providers or small businesses in their community or nonprofits. We really don't want them hoarding supplies, and we don't want them to resell it. It's absolutely prohibited. We put on the form that they can go to their licensing specialist and their CCRNRs for help if they need help filling out the online form. Either English and Spanish is not their first language, so the portal is in English and in Spanish, or if they don't have online support, or if they just simply need help. If you do fill it out for them, you're going to get to a certification statement. Please read that, and then once you read it to them and they say yes, click it. And then for the signature page, just put in verbal, so that we know that it was a verbal confirmation, it wasn't an actual signature. Another thing I want to say is the wildfires have really wreaked havoc on our state, and so shipping may take longer than anticipated. We just want to put that warning up just in case. So far, it's on time. We say within 2 weeks of their order, they should get their package. But we just want to add the caveat because we don't know. These are going all over the state, and some areas may be able to receive their care package on time, and others may not because of the wildfires. So we want to be conscientious of that. Any questions on supplies?
Thanks, Catherine. I'm scanning the group here to see if I see any hands raised. Let's see, Heather.
So I guess I just want to make sure I understand that as they order these materials, these are already procured and they're on site. And so the only delay would be more about shipping. Okay.
Yeah, shipping from our warehouse, which is where we had the first round of emergency supplies that the National Guard set up for us. So our warehouse from Wilsonville to the provider. The supplies themselves are already at the warehouse.
Thank you.
Other questions?
This isn't a question, but just wanted to say that if providers, if you do come to understand that people have items that they're not going to use, of course, they could also donate them to you, and you could donate them to other providers. So I guess I'm not saying you have to put yourself in that position, but we didn't we didn't say give these items to the R&R if you don't need them, but obviously, it could make sense for you to help get people connected if they call you and say, hey, I'm never going to use all these gloves or masks or whatever. Help us keep people from selling them and help us get them to the next right place. So that may not come to pass. People may be totally fine with what they have, but if you start hearing that people are unsure what to do, also please let us know, because that will help us help you help them, so to speak.
Hi, okay, good. Shannon, go ahead.
Just another suggestion possibly could be to have them add it to an emergency kit.
That is good. Good idea.
Yep. Thanks, Shannon. Okay.
Other questions or comments? Yeah, well, really appreciate Joan's thoughts around keeping us apprised as you're hearing the different experience that providers are having as they're receiving these materials, and also would love to hear those success stories of when it lands and it was something that they needed. So appreciate you being able to share those things too. And Catherine, was there an additional update related to the supplemental or Opportunity Zone grants? I wasn't entirely sure if you were speaking to that today or not.
I can update briefly. One of the most common questions, at least that we're receiving, is if I've had to be evacuated, you know, am I still eligible for the opportunity grant, and the address? Can I change the address of where that check goes to? So the wildfires and the national disaster around that will not impact eligibility for these grants. So they shouldn't have to worry about that. And then the second about getting checks to evacuees as soon as we can, and to all providers as soon as we can. We extensively looked into that with the United States Postal Service, with Department of Administrative Services, who basically lays out the rules in the Oregon Accounting Manual about how we can issue checks as a state. And after a lot of brainstorming and talking to a lot of people, we believe it's the most efficient and accurate way is to go through the United States Postal Service. The United States Postal Service has very well-worn protocols on how to connect people with their mail in the case of a national disaster, whether it be a hurricane, a terrorist attack, or wildfires. They are up to date very closely with the Oregon Emergency Management team. And so they know what areas exactly that have been evacuated, and they reroute mail very quickly. And so it became very clear that we could set up a process of our own, but it probably wouldn't be as efficient or as accurate as what USPS has right now. So we're still mailing the checks to the physical address. We are putting an FAQ up on our website that if they're having a hard time getting a hold of their postal office, or they just don't know, they don't have internet access, they can call us, or they can email us if they have not received the check in a timely manner, and we can figure out something if it's direct deposit or what goes after that. So we know how important these checks are. We hear the need. We're trying to actively respond to it, but we just can't beat what USPS can do. We're reuniting people with their mail in times of an emergency.
Thanks, Catherine.
Couldn't get unmuted there. Thanks, Joan. So I see Mary Wolf has a question. Go ahead, Mary.
This may be covered later, but we've had questions if providers had to evacuate, will they get their DHS payments for September?
So that's a good question that is currently standing between us and DHS. We have a call in 25 minutes to discuss a thing, and then I'll be sure to reroute back to Joan what the answer to that is.
Thank you.
Good question. Well, thank you, Catherine, for those quick updates and needed resources, especially with the combined needs between COVID and our wildfire situations. I think any resources coming out to providers are important. So, so let's see. Moving into the next agenda item is and I'm just going to keep our cameras as central and not put up the agenda that you all have and can look at. I think Taya Jocelyn's comment was extremely important to just be able to see each other a little bit better. So the unlicensed emergency child care facility, we had a conversation about that in a recent one of our meetings, and Dawn was going to come on today to add a little follow-up and answer any other questions that might still be dangling out there. Hey, Dawn, you're on.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks. It feels like forever ago that we actually talked about this. So, the landscape changes, but wanted just to kind of provide an update that we are working fast and furious, trying to get all of these programs up and running to really help support the school age children. I would say one of the challenges is a lot of the recorded school age programs are wanting to kind of offer that instruction throughout the day, and that really, or to support that instruction, and that really moves them into childcare. And so we're having to take a lot of the school age recorded programs that are and moving them into the temporary emergency childcare. And so we are working with trying to expand the team a little bit to process those, and working with a lot of program to give them that initial approval, to give time for our licensing specialists to loop back and get the virtual visit and to get the final pass. Also have been working with DHS in terms of the payment, and can they receive DHS payment on an initial approval? And so the answer to that is yes. And so working with Joanne actually to really set up how they're going to know that, as well as if a program that was historically licensed and because of different factors are not able to go into their licensed site, that they're able to, but they need to open up to serve their families. We have some that are opening up as an unlicensed emergency childcare facility. And if they were displaced because of their location, but they were licensed, they are able to receive the center rate for DHS. So we're still working on how that's going to work. Definitely rely on DHS to add anything to that they would want, but we are working on that connection. So with that, in terms of where we're at in a short update, I kind of wanted to open it up just if there's any questions or things that you're hearing out there around this process or anything you need. And I thought I saw Karen's hand go up.
Hi, everybody. I am wondering about the information of those that are recorded. Not always are they in Knackerware, right? Because, okay, and then if, my mind's going a little crazy. So let's say they are in Knackerware, they would automatically be dumped from Chris to Knackerware if they're in Chris as a recorded. Some are not recorded because there's nobody going out there saying you better do this. So, and wanting to be ECC, right? So if they haven't currently been recorded as a program, can they become ECC?
Yes, if there's a community need. And so for a preschool, 0 to 5 program, there's going to need to be a community need, and we do that based on the vacancy data. If it is a school age program, it's school age only, since the schools were in an online instruction environment. If it is a school age only, they can, the community need is that there's online instruction, therefore there's a need for childcare. And those are the ones eligible to get the initial approval to get operating prior to the virtual visit. And they have to have significant experience providing care. So those are kind of the 2 caveats that is going to move them into being able to move forward even with a licensing specialist.
I know something came out in regards to all that really good specific information. Is that something that can be sent out again?
I think so. John, did I remember to send you the PowerPoint? I don't know, but yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
We did get that, and we did forward it out so we can track it down and re-forward it.
Okay.
And I think also, this may be wrong or whatever, but there are some preschools, they're not ECC, but they're doing virtual. They cannot be supported through ERDC, right?
I would move that to a DHS person to answer.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering about those preschool programs that are going to virtual only. as their childcare option, which isn't childcare. And so I'm wondering, how does that play into DHS payment?
You mean they're not offering in-person care for the
Correct.
children? Oh, then I don't think that they could get DHS funds for that.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Shannon, I see you might have a question.
So my question is on how we should, for example, I emailed you, John, an article about a week or two ago about a program that was going to open up a whole bunch of school age things. I had not even heard about that. And it's with an agency that I probably wouldn't normally see in an early childhood meeting. Do we just kind of let one of you guys know, or licensing? Do we connect with them? I mean, that's where I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I want to make sure that there is the community need and they're following some of the rules.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Shannon, and this is happening. I mean, we have a news article come out and, oh, there's some programs operating and we need to follow up with them.
Yeah.
So we know that that's happening. And I would say, we're approaching it from we're taking the approach of, oh, you didn't know? Let us help you get in line. So it's not like, going forward in this punitive way because, my God, how can you track anything right now? So we're definitely taking that approach. So, I mean, I would say, contact, I hate to say me, but it probably is the right person. No, just contact me and then I can kind of sort out and figure out what they need to be. It's ironic. I know I was doing a training with licensing specialists on kind of all these changes as well. And it's like I made a graphic that just showed full circle. It's like we're back to the point of really knowing we need to increase the number often of the unlicensed emergency childcare because of the schools. And not that long ago, we were trying to reduce the numbers for childcare. So we're just, in a different state all the time trying to meet the needs. So it's definitely hard for programs and all of us to even keep track.
Thanks, Dawn. We'll make sure we publish your contact information as widely as we can. Shannon, I know that particular situation was a faith-based organization partnering with multiple entities and trying to make available resources for students to be able to get their work done during the day. And I'm not sure if it leaned all the way into childcare or not, but I think it would be good to see if they've had any connection points with the Office of Child Care, just as Dawn was saying. And I'm sure there's multiple examples across our state of similar situations. But I see Karen Hinkemeyer was saying or asking, how is the community need determined and who is determining it? And I think what I was hearing Dawn say around the school age side of things is it's a little bit more cut and dry that this support is needed, and that is the community need that's being demonstrated. But as far as like preschool programs, as you mentioned before, Dawn, you were also mentioning that the data that's utilized is the amount of slots that are available in the community. And so looking at our NACRWare data and utilizing that as the first go, but I don't know who ultimately makes that decision. I'd like to say it's me in a room by myself, because I'm always in a room by myself, but I don't get to make those decisions. So Dawn.
So John, I would say it's me by myself in a room making those decisions. And I'm using 80% as kind of a threshold to assess if the 80% of all childcare vacancies are being used. That feels like, yeah, there's probably not. Now, if it's an application that is, let's say, infant and toddlers, or, just a really specific age group, I will look at the data that's, comes out of NACRWare to see, like, they could have a pretty low capacity, but that's because there's a lot of preschoolers, but there's only 2 or 3 infant toddler slots. So if that's the case, then I'll make an assessment and determine that because of the age group served that they're going out. It's honestly, I use the vacancy data as the best I can, and then I just try to use my professional judgment because that's kind of what we have right now.
Thanks, Dawn. Any follow-up questions to any of that? I see Mary Wolf.
I'm just passing along that several providers have asked if there's any possibility that there could be a waiver to the lead teacher requirement just in the interim, because it's very challenging for providers to find staff.
Is this for a licensing program, a license program? Yeah. I can take that forward to Tammy Scott and see. I'll let her know about that. I'm not sure if that is possible. If there need to have someone teacher qualified. So I mean, a lead teacher, you don't need to have a head teacher. So when you say lead teacher, are you just meaning teacher qualified?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my answer most likely is like, no, that would not be something that would, I think I feel pretty safe saying that, actually.
Right, and that's what I thought, but I'm just letting you know that it's come up from several providers, just because it's very hard to find staff right now.
Yep, I'll pass that along though, for sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mary. And let's see, any other questions, comments related to Dawn's update? Thank you, Dawn, for this was one of those rapid response opportunities where she said, hey, we need to follow up on this. And we slid her in on the agenda. And so that was a good conversation. Appreciate it very much, your flexibility, Dawn, and bringing back info to the group. And the next agenda item that we have here is related to Preschool Promise and the profiles that will be produced here shortly as programs start to become fully executed in the grants with the Early Learning Division. And I think that I see Andy is on to talk through this a little bit. And I don't know if Dana Young is here also. Oh, I do see her on board too, but I saw Andy's camera first, so she and Dana may not be able to get in on camera. So we'll start with you, Andy, and we'll play tag team.
Not a problem. If you want to allow me to share my screen, I can show you guys. We wanted to circle back just real quick and give you a sneak preview of the template we're developing to provide what really is a high level of, thank you, John, a high level of information of the Preschool Promise grantees as we learn it. So let me go ahead and do the sharing. Remember, when I share that I don't get to see anybody's faces. So any cheering or booing verbally will be helpful. And maybe John, if you can let me know if there's some questions in the chat box.
I will do my best to boo and cheer multiple times.
I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing my screen and you're seeing Preschool Promise program profile. Again, this is our attempt to provide each CCRR and Early Learning Hub with a little bit of information about the Preschool Promise grantees as they come in. One thing that I urge everybody to keep in mind is that the level of detail that we receive from grant agreements and the RFA is not very deep. So we're not going to know things like every staff member's name. We're not going to know really their history of professional development and those pieces. But we are going to be able to share some general information, as well as we're hoping we'll also be able to share the actual RFA that they wrote, because those are public documents. So the first section here will just give you some overall grantee information, really mostly that contact information, so you know who they are, where they are, and who is available to be contacted. We wanted to call out what program type they were, if they were a grantee before, if they're dual funded, kind of trying to think about that high level information that might help prepare in somebody's mind when they're making that initial phone call. Having a section here around technical assistance information so that, and putting in both your name as the CCRR and then the hub's name so that everybody knows who's working with each of the grantees. If available, we also want to provide their most recent ERS score. So whether that's a Fickers or an Eckers, and a recent class score and their Spark rating, and if they were in Lead Learn Excel. That information may not be available for everybody, but we're going to try our very best to cross-reference it with the data that we do have. And the same with the staffing information. We're going to try our very best to fill in with the data that we do have, but you may find as you contact grantees that you will learn more than we know based on their grant application and their grant agreement. And then some additional information down here at the bottom. Do they offer transportation? What is the program's primary language? And again, you may learn more about language as you reach out to them. It may not be in their grant application. And then select a curriculum model we're hoping to cross-reference out of the application. And then if they're a Preschool Promise provider and they need to modify their service delivery in any way this year due to COVID-19, whether it's a hybrid or working entirely remotely, they need to apply for a waiver. And so we would have that information and we would be able to share. So again, just super basic information to kind of start to build a sense of who these programs are. I know that as CCRRs start to work with Preschool Promise grantees, you're going to be learning more information that can be added onto this. Again, this is high level based on the information that is available to us from their grant agreements and the RFA, and some other cross-referencing that we can do within our systems.
Andy, I see that Jerry has a question.
Great.
Hey, so would you move it back down to the technical assistance just down the page just a little bit? Okay. So I just want to tell you I'm a really logical sequential person, and so this doesn't fit into my logical sequential mind. So you have the Early Learning Hub, the CCRR, but then you have recent scores and then you all of a sudden have program stuff in the middle of that. And then Lead Learn Excel alumni. I think that's going back to the person who's the CCRR person. It's like flipping. So is that wrong?
I think what we were thinking of in terms of this section is where do we put information of previous technical assistance and professional development they may have received, and or any other data we have. It feels a little bit like a potpourri. I get that, and maybe we need to move it down further in the form, but it's kind of our attempt of saying, like, this is the information that we do know about the professional development status of this program and any measures of quality of the program that we have, and trying to put those together. But maybe we can separate out some of them a little bit.
So where you have Lead Learn Excel alumni, who does that apply to?
That would apply to anybody who has been in one of the first 3 cohorts of Lead Learn Excel. So it may be, if it's a program, they may be, we did have several Preschool Promise family childcare programs who went through Lead Learn Excel. We had some other Preschool Promise larger grantees. So it may be their education manager. It may be their lead teacher. Just whoever may have gone through it that is associated with that program.
Okay, so it's a program thing. So I guess, yeah, even if you separated it by a thicker line so that it was like these first 2 things are their professional development contacts, and then the last 4 things are all specific to the program. That would help. Because because we didn't have Preschool Promise before. I had no idea that had gone through Lead Learn Excel. My only experience is my staff have going through Lead Learn Excel, so that was confusing to me. So that helped. But okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. No, this is great. This is the kind of feedback that we need, because the purpose of this form is that it works for you all with as much information that we have.
Just to clarify, to make sure we're on the same page, like the hub is not responsible. I think we all know this, so I'm probably just preaching to the choir, so to speak. But the hub is not responsible for professional development for the Preschool Promise providers. They're listed on here because they are supporting coordinated enrollment, just to be perfectly clear. So in terms of TA, it would be TA associated with coordinating enrollment into that program. Would that be accurate, Andy? Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes, and I believe in this form that will be accurate, and I can work with the formatting so it's a little bit more intuitive. The only thing I would add to that is that in some communities, if it's a previous Preschool Promise grantee, understanding that they have a previous technical assistance relationship with the hub, that may be helpful in your work, or it may not be helpful in your work.
Maybe we need like a box.
So just having those two pieces together may for some.
Yeah, like where it says previous Preschool Promise grantee, I don't know, maybe there's a box under that that talks about their TA. Really, I don't know. Just again, I'm not trying to mess with your formatting. Just if we're trying to have like a clean picture of like kind of like almost like I just want everyone's roles to be clear. I think you understand what I'm after. So
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And maybe it's better if we don't put it all together. I mean, you guys know who you are, and I'm going to make a general assumption you know who the hub is in your region. If not, we can help you learn that. So maybe those two lines aren't as valuable, and I've been trying to figure out a way to make the form a little shorter, so that may be a helpful piece.
And it feels like maybe there's a profile version that has that information for the provider also to see their stuff at a glance as we're viewing it, and then also who their TA people are and for what purpose the TA exists. But yeah, I agree, for the CCRNRs to know who their local hub is might not be necessary.
Might be a pop quiz.
Hey, let's see, Hannah and then Karen.
My only question was around the Spark rating, because I know that this says how many sites. So I don't know how you guys are organizing that, like, because they're rated individually based off of the location. So that was my question of how to organize that. And then are you having the program self-report their Spark rating, or is that something that you want provided?
Yeah, we are going to fill this out. We're not having the programs fill this out. We'll fill it out with the information that we have available. So in their application, they were asked what their Spark rating is. We'll probably just pull it from that. And I think if they do have more than one site, we will either add additional rows there for each site, or depending on the program situation, it may make more sense to have a different profile for each site.
And Karen Hinkemeyer.
Okay, I've got a couple questions. Let's see if I can remember them. Okay, so I am getting asked a lot from my hub that providers have questions that they want answers to. And I let them know that providers can contact our general phone line for questions. Since we don't have a contract and we don't have staff to do this work because maybe of a pandemic and fires and etc. So I'm just wanting to clarify that that's okay again. And then the second thing is I love gathering of information. Just wanting to say, okay, can this information be tracked in Find Childcare Oregon database so that we have a one-stop and the ability to run reports when things change so that it's updated? Question mark.
So first question, I'll leave it. I mean, I don't want to get into what's okay and what's not okay. I leave that all up to John in general in life. But I will remind everybody again that there is a Preschool Promise helpline that potential grantees, awardees can call with their questions. There is an email address, and maybe Dana, you could throw it into the chat box real quick, that potential awardees and grantees can email us with their questions. That we do have folks standing by to help support that. So the CCRR does not need to be the only place they go. The hubs don't need to be the only place they go. So anytime we can remind folks that as they are deciding and working out their direct grants with the ELD, that we are here to help them with that and get them started, as we know that hubs and CCRNRs are ramping up. So just another plug for that and a reminder for that. And I think your other question, Karen, is a really great question and almost a bigger conversation. This is kind of just a way that we can quickly get things started. But I know that we've also had some questions internally about how do we take this information, and like you said, how do we feed it into some kind of some places within our system where if these things change, we can make that change and spit those things out. And I look forward to continuing that bigger conversation. As far as like this template, our idea is that this is just going to be a PDF that we send to you with a PDF of their application, just trying to get you guys a little snippet of information so it doesn't feel like such a blind date, that you've at least seen a little bit of their personal profile before you meet for coffee. And hopefully it feels a little more like knowing who it is that you're working with and what to expect. And then we can start having conversations about triaging programs, which programs may need more attention in the beginning, which programs may need just a, hey, we're here if you need anything, softer touch in the beginning.
Thanks for that incredible visual of speed dating with Preschool Promise. I see Heather has a question.
And I'm sorry, I'm sure everybody's head's really full, but sorry if I missed it. But so this form is going out, and is there a due date around it? And so am I hearing that your expectation is that the CCRNRs complete this with all the programs?
Nope.
I missed something.
Don't worry about it. This is just a sneak peek of what we will be filling out on the ELD side and providing to you. So there's nothing you need to do with this form. Just read it and know that they'll be coming in waves as grants are being signed. We're not filling these out until a grant is executed. So they won't all come at once.
I think, I know we still have our agreement to come to, so we can do our hiring pieces. That was my concern, just getting those people in place. And I'm a staff person down in Klamath, so it'd be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Any other feedback or questions about the form itself? And I can scroll down again if people want to see the bottom again.
I see in the chat box a couple of things. Let's see. So, there's a question that Shannon might have related to DHS, and we can check in on that as we transition. But Candy mentioned that maybe a place near the top which says information updated on, whatever date it is, as things change. And then Mary Wolf was wondering about the Preschool Promise FAQs, where to find them on the website, if we have a good direction for those.
Yeah, we can put a link in the chat box for that.
Perfect. Any other, wait, I saw a hand. Oh, I see Shannon.
So, this is in relation to my email not too long ago about, the quality improvement specialist or the coach tiering, who needs the most. Is there a spot on there for one of my staff? So we receive this, I give it to my coach or whatever. Could we have it a spot on there that when they have the conversation with someone, that we could say this person, I'm just going to throw something out in the like red yellow, green, you know, this person is red and really needs help, or, you know, however we do it, but that'll help us keep organized as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably do that. I think that was kind of one of my questions is, if we send this to you as a PDF, then you can't make any changes to it, which has its advantages. Or if we send it to you as a Word doc, then you can add on to it whatever information you'd like to add on to it, which has its own advantages as well. Is there,
well, I would assume that they would have a file on this person. They would, each person would have a file, and then they can update it, or, you know, in a notebook or something. So it would be very useful as that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, and I think just for those of you who may not have heard Shannon's processing thought, I think they were looking at trying to categorize providers as they come through in their region around the sort of level of TA that might be needed from the get-go, and how to decide who might be the group of providers that will directly connect up with the Preschool Promise quality improvement specialist, and which ones are sort of ready to kind of move right into conversations with the coach and more individualization, and just sort of triaging the level of supports and how much goes into that for each provider. And so I think some of the information on this profile kind of contributes to the criteria that you might utilize locally to decide which level might be best for which provider. But I think there's other questions that you may be asking, and that we can help support as a team as we're starting to process how all this rolls out, and how much is the sort of right size and right amount of TA provided on a consistent basis that every provider can count on, compared to where people might need more intensive services on the front end, and what would that look like. And so I think Shannon posed, you know, some nice thoughts around how do we get there. But I think we need to, as a system, really talk through that, so we don't have a much different triaging version going on in one region compared to another, and try and make it as consistent as we possibly can, and based on some key factors. And so it was a good email coming from Shannon, gave me a chance to think through it a little bit. But as we're developing the approach and TA and more guidance from the division level, I think we'll want to be having more detailed discussions with CCRNRs about how to put that into place, and what's the appropriate, there's what's in your grant around what a QIS and a coach does that you'll soon have executed, and then there's what does that mean individually for those programs, and how does it all fit together. So
and thank you for that, John. One thing that it makes me think about is conversations that we've been having with our consultants in developing the onboarding materials for the new grantees, as well as for the CCRNRs, and some of that's going to include a playbook that goes deeper into the requirements and gives resources and examples. And one resource we're hoping to finalize and offer to folks is a self-assessment type tool to use with providers to help think about what is their red, yellow, green level as we triage and prioritize focus for the programs.
Perfect. Right along the same lines. Dana Young.
Yeah, already. Good morning, everybody. Dana here. I've been chatting. Now I'm chatting here with some of you. So just general message for currently, I just went ahead and shared the link where all of the Preschool Promise documents are, like the program manual, the grant manual, English and Spanish, a draft copy of the actual grant agreement that grantees are signing, the DocuSign information so in there. So as you're talking to providers, please direct them to that link. We know that because how the communication has been going on for the past couple months, some of the program managers or kind of like the lead person may not have received that the grant manual, because we were really focused on the signer getting all the information so we can go ahead and get it signed. But please help share that around. We'll be in contact with our web people later on today to now go ahead and like transfer the FAQ document here. So apologize, it's been a little bit confusing for applicants because they're going to this link, but they don't have the FAQ. They go to this link and they don't have the grant manual and stuff. So we're looking to go ahead and combine it into one. So that's why you've been seeing like two contacts. As far as like the email, the PSP email, encourage, they can send an email in English and Spanish. I did add the phone number for grants and ops team because a lot of the calls that are coming in, they're very grants and ops. Like they want to talk about like the requirements. Where do I find certain information? While they in that team, they don't have someone that speaks Spanish, we do have the language line available, so they can still go ahead and serve the applicants in multiple languages. And then some of the calls come to me, which I can do consultations in English and Spanish, but we're trying to go ahead and increase our capacity as well. So more to come on that. But I think for right now, the main email is the PSP email. And from what I'm gathering for a lot of the conversations with grantee or applicants is that they want to talk to our grants and ops team. So we have a language line available there. So that's all I have on my end. I think, this profile is like, and the mention is really supposed to be like the warm handoff to you guys as far as like what we have here and helping you in your speed dating, like John mentioned there. So, yep, that's all I have for Preschool Promise as far as I word the document slip and all that stuff. So thank you.
Thanks, Dana. I like pina coladas. So sorry, analogies hurt me deeply because I'm visual and auditory, obviously. So any last questions related to Preschool Promise at the moment? I may have missed some things in the chat box because, as you know, I'm passive-aggressively avoiding everything you type in there. Oh, wait, that's just aggressively because I said it out loud. Okay, sorry. Let's be clear. Thanks,
John. I just had that DHS question, but I don't know if that's a good time or we're coming to that.
Is it one that we can, well, I know we probably won't be able to answer it, but pose it, I'll write it down and we'll try and get
Okay. Well, I had a provider or center who met with a licensor, I guess, and they may have not understood, I don't know, but can a center, they've hired some instructional staff to help with instruction for school age children. They're not DHS. They can still do that, correct? I mean, the only thing I've heard is that if you're DHS, you can't get paid for providing instruction for school age. You can help log the kids on. You can help, some basic pieces to that. But there are some that are actually helping with some instruction, and they were told they can't and have that. So I just wanted to confirm that. Again, the only thing I heard was with DHS, but
so yeah, I mean, I think the nuance there, Shannon, and the answer that I would give is that it's related to the utilization of our CCDF funds for employment-related daycare and what is an allowable activity in terms of I think where people were getting heightened on the subsidy side is around tutoring activities that truly aren't falling into a childcare related situation. But if childcare providers are providing care throughout the day for students that are also needing to attend to their school age learning and activities, it's primarily a childcare situation that also has additional support. And I think that it's important for the childcare folks that are signing up for this to realize that that's what they're seeking subsidy for, is to support the family who is working, and the primary activity is childcare. if they're trying to seek reimbursement for ERDC and they truly are just supporting children part-time who are attending school, they're going to run into issues with being able to reimburse for that. And then your question is really around, if they're not seeking subsidy at all, can they do those activities?
And the licensor told them no, which was, I thought, weird. But
well, interestingly, we have Tammy Scott on for a different reason. And I will defer to her to seek a little more clarity around what that might have been.
Yeah, I mean, my guess, Shannon, is that there's a misunderstanding, or the communication is getting changed through the game of telephone, because providers are very able to support distance learning and help with distance learning. So I'd be happy to follow up with that licensor, because I would imagine that they have a very different version of how the conversation went. So if you shoot me a quick email, I'll do some follow up on it and get it cleared up.
well, and I know the director sometimes misconstrues some things, but yeah, that'd be great.
And we do have situations where our private schools are trying to get licensed all day long, and it's circumventing and telling them they can't just provide school all day long and call it childcare. You know, that could also be what the scenario is. And so, you know, there's so many messages right now, but I can totally see with the private school licensing their entire day program that we said, you can't just do school all day and call it childcare. And so that could also be where the message came from, but I can certainly follow up.
Okay.
And I wonder if that also is leaning into what Dorit's question was in the chat box, which is licensing specialists that are advising that if they're providing instruction, and I'm assuming providers are providing instruction, that they follow the ODE blueprint rather than childcare guidelines. But I'm wondering if that's crossing over into this private school kind of thing that you're mentioning, Tammy, or not.
Well, and what I can tell you that we confirmed with ODE that they are okay with us telling private schools that in their childcare day, they can do their 2 hours of limited in-person instruction in the childcare schedule. So it's not that children in the childcare have to check out and leave to go do that 2 hours of instruction. So it's all so intertwined with this that could also be where confusion happens. But I am regularly seeing a childcare schedule that has a 2 hour block of limited in-person instruction. And as long as the rest of the day has a variety of activities that look similar to childcare, we're approving it.
All right.
Can I just send you the center a private message?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, before I call on, I think Mary, who had her hand up, I just want to note one more time that we're going to just schedule a small 20 to 2 hour section where Shannon's questions get answered on. No, I'm kidding with you, Shannon, but she's good at finding that one item that it's like, we do need to discuss this and it wasn't on our agenda. And I would only give Shannon that kind of a hard time because it's a great question. So thank you. And Mary, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the zero copay will be in place through October.
I don't think we have anybody from DHS still on the call.
No.
Okay. But you'll let us know as soon as you know?
Yes.
We can track that down.
And also, I have one more question about, and this keeps coming up about like, you know, the YMCAs who are not able to bill for ERDC. And for some reason, I cannot understand why they can't.
There are some YMCAs that close their license down and are just claiming and doing a recorded school age program. And if they close their license down, they're stating that they're no longer doing childcare. And so then they wouldn't qualify.
So in order to be eligible, they would have to become a licensed center?
Yes, because if you're a recorded school age program, you're declaring that you're not doing childcare, that you're not providing a service that takes the place of a parent's care. So it doesn't make sense that we would pay for childcare if you're not doing childcare.
So automatically, if they're saying they're recorded, they're saying they're not doing childcare?
They're saying they are not providing a service that takes the place of a parent's care. If they're providing a service that takes the place of a parent's care, that's licensed childcare and they have to be licensed.
Okay, I will try and get that through to them again. Thanks.
Good distinction, Tammy. Okay, Heather.
So Tammy, though, if they are a recorded program like a Boys and Girls Club or something like that, and they want to do emergency childcare and through and a pop-up care, they can do that.
Yes.
And
so that subsidy does pay for emergency childcare where they're actually taking the children in, checking them and keeping them all day, being the responsible party for them. That the subsidy does pay for.
So that's the transition between the two, if it's, especially if we're temporary, right, to meet a need. Okay.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
All right. So I see that Carrie added to the chat box some information around the copay. Carrie, do you just want to talk about that? I don't want to read.
I think this might answer your question, Mary. It just says it's on the DHS website that they've reduced the copay. It says benefits for October 2020 or later. So I think that means all the way through October.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, so moving a little bit forward into the next agenda item here. Cass, thank you for being patient, and Cass was going to come on board here to talk briefly about some of the updates that have been going on through email, but also around some family voice opportunities and where we're at currently. Turn it over to you, Cass.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being on the call today and sharing how everyone's doing. It was nice to hear and nice to be supported by each other in the group. I know that this is probably not the greatest timing to want to ask for family feedback, but the division is in the, just started. We had a preliminary discussion with a couple family members that were able to kind of shed some light on returning to childcare and what that might look like, and maybe what they might be expecting from us in an at-a-glance document. We took that feedback, created a draft from that, sent it up to leadership to look at, and it's come back down again for a little review to be able to put it into an actual format. This is kind of a quick turnaround based on the need, and so I apologize for not a lot of advance notice. I also understand the time, so if it's not a good time, it's okay. We would like to hear from families that are returning to childcare on this, and I'm opening it up tomorrow and Thursday. And so we did send out some emails to everyone. If you would like to email me back and let me know if that's a possibility, I will send you out the links for the Zoom meetings. And it's just one chance to look at this before it actually goes into like a template and is formed. And I'm hoping that there will possibly be another round of review. And then we're going to try to continue to get those engagement opportunities more and more. So if there's any questions about this at a glance opportunity, you can send me an email offline. I know that you guys are kind of crunched for time today. And again, thank you.
Thanks, Cass. And just checking the group here, is there any questions, clarification, comments coming from the team? All right. Thank you, Cass, for that update. Oh, I see. Oh, no, Pam's hopping off. Thanks, Pam. Take care.
So the piece
Go ahead, Karen.
The DHS piece, I believe in my last, it's called SSP, so self-sufficiency program stakeholders meeting. I believe James Barta said that ERDC is extended through October. So if families are applying after November 1st or after, then it goes back to regular copay. But they're trying to do this on a month-to-month basis to continue it, but that's what I've heard. But James does not have it in writing, and I've asked him several times. So, FYI.
Thanks, Karen. And Joan, you were commenting on something.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, I thought that maybe Karen had something to say relative to Cass. So it seems like we were closing an earlier loop and that people will follow up with Cass if they have questions. So.
Excellent. Thanks all. Thanks, Cass. And so what we'll use the remainder of our time for today, we sort of started with the place that we were all in and how we're feeling, but we do want to touch base with CCRNRs and partners related to the wildfires and what's going on in your areas and how, we've seen over email strategies that different regions are utilizing. We've also heard from our peers as to, what some of the challenges are, but I think it would be good to talk through some of the things that are going on in regions, what's working, what you need support in. The Research Institute has offered up their support to a few of our more affected regions, and that has been extremely helpful. I'll also show some of the resources that they've been putting together here in a moment, but we do want to open up the remainder of our time for that type of a discussion and then ask you if our Thursday, we'll discuss whether we want to continue our Thursday meeting, which is our monthly CCRNR meeting led by TRI, and we have an idea of what we might utilize that time for, but we want to get your feedback on whether that would be timely or useful or unnecessary. And so before we jump in, though, I did want to, Tammy came on board not only to answer great emergent questions that came up, but Tammy Scott came on board to talk a little bit about what the Office of Child Care is doing right now as it relates to the wildfires and what may be happening with our licensing specialists. And so, Tammy, I didn't know if you wanted to sort of give an intro there, and then we'll go into some of our regional conversation.
Yeah, so I just wanted to jump on real quick. We know the fires are just very devastating in certain parts of the states. And yesterday I virtually I met with our Medford licensing staff, as well as I know some of them have had some contact with their CCRNR down there. And the CCRNR down there sent a list of questions to Amy Joyce also. So we have been gathering and pulling together proposals that I have like 99% done, that are going to be able to support providers during this time that are in those fire affected areas. We're looking at options for increased capacity to support the displaced families. That would include even possible exceptions for the registered family team limit that right now you can have 12 people on your team while having 10 in attendance, so exceptions for that. We know that there are a lot of families that are displaced and looking for temporary shelters, and even some that might be looking to family members or friends that are at child care homes. So we're looking at what the background check process could be to support them to be able to have a place to stay. Looking at expedited methods for getting, if you need to move your child care, you need to move it to a new location, an expedited process for those applications and exceptions that might be needed. So expedited for that. I'm going through my document because I've got a 2.5-page proposal written. If you have an unlicensed emergency child care that is also being displaced, guidance on what will happen with that. We've got an FAQ ready to be posted online that will give guidance for these questions and ultimately going to their licensing specialist for support is going to be the best option. I'm meeting with my licensors tomorrow morning at 8:15 to present this to them and the accommodations that we're trying to make to support these programs and these families. So more to come about the very specifics. They'll be getting it hopefully by the end of the day and then getting talked to about it tomorrow. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that we absolutely heard the cry, pulled together meetings yesterday, have it drafted, and it's just about ready to go out to our staff and to be some questions posted on our website that will provide some information.
Sorry, I can't get unmuted. Thanks, Tammy. Is there any direct questions related to that before we go in to some other aspects? Mary?
Tammy, I just want to thank you so much for doing that. We really, really appreciate it.
And you're very welcome, and thank you for really, like, I met with my licensors and I had a list of things, but either what you provided or Jill provided, I'm not sure who provided it, but you actually gave me the exact questions that I needed to answer. So we went through everything step by step of what you provided, so that the form that you provided, it was very, very helpful.
Well, we really appreciate it, and so will the providers and the families. Thank you.
And I'm hopeful that they get some relief because they're hurting, we know.
All right. So thank you, Tammy. And I'm not seeing other hands raised at the moment, nothing in the chat box. So I want to step back just a little bit into last week around we had essentially what I would consider kind of a call to action, just as many of you saw that our early learning division was responding to some questions and needs coming from the governor's office related to understanding the effects of the wildfires on our childcare programs in communities. And in a quick turnaround, multiple parts of our division were working together to try and gather data in addition to activating our connections with our CCRNRs and partners to understand what you were hearing from your providers in your area and what needs were. And I think those are for various purposes, but in the end, I think ultimately knowing the circumstances that have occurred for our early education programs and whether evacuations are things that were temporary and for how long, or if they were evacuations that ultimately ended in facility loss or the inability to go back into those facilities at this time. I think all of those things are going to be critical for us to understand what resources or opportunities we might have within the state to continue to help our childcare community as we move forward. And so that late last week sort of call to action also highlighted some of the needs that we had within our own childcare resource and referral system. Of course, you understand that we view you as an essential service within the state, and many of you all are also in organizations that are part of kind of that emergency response, or at least an activated response in your communities, and others are in organizations that in some respects may close down as some of these emergencies arise, and then others are in communities that were absolutely directly affected by the fires themselves. And so our hope and need to have CCRNRs mobilized in the middle of this newest crisis situation gave us, varied results in your ability to react to that, and that's totally appropriate. I mean, there was no other way for us to go about trying to mobilize, but also understand the effects than to just be diving into it and trying to wrap our mind around what was going on and support you in whatever ways were possible. And so I had mentioned that the Research Institute had offered up some support as we were trying to gather some of the information. One of the things that Hannah was able to do within her team, and we were also able to provide some data on publicly funded programs and where they exist in communities around the state. But Hannah was able to put together a GIS map that overlays the evacuation zones, so the sort of level 1, 2, and 3, and the addresses of providers in those communities. So which ones land in a level 3 evacuation. We are most aware are going to be the ones that are either most long-term affected or potentially experience the most loss related to their homes, their businesses, and otherwise. But without the ability to necessarily be able to reach some of our providers, because as we know, in some of these instances, they are not going to be answering their phones for various very important reasons. But the more that we can gather data ongoing, licensing specialists are also a piece of that puzzle. CCRR staff that are connected, providers I have heard that are in their family childcare networks are connecting together, so the information starts to flow back to your team members. And so we still want to continue to capture whatever information we can. But what we were able to do, and I'll just show you briefly this map that Hannah put together here. Apologies, the screen that wants to show it is not the easiest one to put it on. Okay, so now I cannot see any of you, but hopefully you can see this map coming up. And we can enlarge this situation so we can see where people and programs exist. And so what you can see is these little black dots are our childcare programs, and we can highlight where they are in the system and where they fall within these green, yellow, or red zones. If you see a blue dot layered over top of one of the black dots, that means they're not only a childcare provider, but they may be a Preschool Promise grantee or a Baby Promise grantee. So OPK is our blue dots, Preschool Promise are our yellow dots, and orange is our Baby Promise programs. And then of course the black dots are the childcare programs. And so this level of data is not something that we're sharing widely. It's for internal opportunities within the division. We can talk about how we might make something like that available to CCRNRs if it helps you in any capacity. But it's more something that we were putting together so that the governor's office was able to see the direct impacts to our communities as it relates to childcare. And then as we're able to gather more detailed data and stories around what has occurred for our individual childcare programs, we want to continue to be able to educate our internal leaders within the division and also folks in the governor's office so decisions can be made ongoing. And I think the example that Tammy mentioned about what was being brought forward in Mary Wolf's region from Jill and the experience she had gathered from providers in their community, I think not only those questions that were coming up, but just the sheer effects and tragedy that has been occurring, those stories are extremely helpful, even though not easy to gather and not easy to connect with people around some of those things. And so I want to pause there for a minute. And I think Hannah, Robin, folks that were involved in helping out, if you have any additional thoughts, things that I missed related to that, please feel free to chime in.
This is Robin. I'm sorry I don't have my camera on. For some reason, GoToMeeting really slows my connection down, and if I turn my camera on, you probably won't be able to hear me. I think what we have to add is a big thank you to those of you that were able to attend a really quick call late last week, staff that were able to attend the webinar to kind of talk about how we're going to collect this data. And I guess the other ask is to continue to update using the new emergency protocol, because like John said, it is important to know what's going on around the state and how this new emergency is affecting childcare on top of the COVID emergency. So if you have questions about that, that's where Hannah can come in. She can answer those questions. There's new NACOWARE protocol to make sure that we're tracking COVID emergency closures differently than fire emergency closures. But thank you to those that have already engaged in that work, and just a little ask for those of you that haven't or still have more to check that out. If you're in a situation where your staff time is taken on other emergencies and you would like for us to call some providers and do some updates, reach out to us. We've been able to help a couple of regions that are doing other important emergency work. So that's something else. I don't think we could volunteer to call the providers in the state, but if it's something that you're not going to get to, it is important data. And we have a team of staff that are trained in NACOWARE and can do those updates for you. Hannah, did I miss anything?
No, just to reach out if your staff have any questions or if there's anything around tracking that needs. And then the other thing was the, John, are you going to talk about the fire form?
I was hoping that I was going to suggest if one of you might have that. I was looking for the link to see if I could just drop it in here, but thank you, Hannah. Whoops. Drop that. Oh, you did drop it one more time. Thank you. So I know as things were unfolding at the end of last week, regions had varying levels of success in mobilizing their team members to contact providers. And so as this week is still in sort of a part of our emergency process, the more that you have the ability to have staff connecting with providers that are still in those regions that are most affected, any details that we can get will be helpful. This form and link that Hannah provided is collecting some of that data that we've been talking about. We have a back end to that data that we can send to your team members. I think before if you haven't had your people contacting as regularly, we can send out the an Excel version of this spreadsheet so you can see what data currently exists in there. So you're not revisiting or calling a provider that may have had a licensing specialist enter that data into this system. And then we can provide it also equally back to licensing so they know what data you guys have gathered, and that there's sort of an ongoing sort of conversational piece there. We have some data coming in from 211 that's been entered there also. And hubs have been notified if they happen to hear one of these stories and have collected some of the information that they can also interact and provide an update in this system. But the more that we're able to collect this, we'll continue to provide that information to our leadership as they're working with the governor's office, and then keep you posted on what becomes available as we move forward. The other thing that I'm just going to talk about Thursday's meeting to get this either solidified or not. And one of the things that we had that TRI and I had talked about a little bit was is there is there a proper use of this week's meeting for continued conversations around this? We didn't know if it would be of value to bring additional, basically open up the meeting to your staff and employees as they're working on these emergencies to help understand what things are working, what things are not, what best messaging can be utilized. All of those things could be offered up during that time for that Thursday meeting. We also had an offer from, and I think Robin had reached out, or Child Care Aware of America had reached out to her to offer potentially some disaster resources and other things that they may be able to offer on a call like that for Thursday, so they can be available to provide some additional resources that they're aware of, and also support in areas where you are requesting resources. So that could be used, that time could be used for connecting with them. And then ongoing, we're also talking with Region 10, who also has resources there that may be able to be offered in ongoing conversations that we have. So it may not be for Thursday, but could be future. But just want to get a pulse from you guys on whether or not Thursday is something that you would think would be an appropriate opportunity to continue conversations like this with an expanded group, or if it's just a little bit too soon and just not quite the right time. And that's absolutely okay also. But we just wanted to make sure that we were using that Thursday monthly meeting for the right purpose. And if the purpose is best met by just continuing to do the work that you're trying to achieve, that can be canceled also. So just posing that now. I see, let's see. Jerry has a big old meeting college-wide Thursday from 9 to 10. So that's one vote for she's not going to be there. Any other thoughts about Thursday, folks?
This is Shannon. I think right now is probably not a good time. I mean, at least for our group.
Okay. I'm seeing some head nods. So can I get, if that's the majority, just give me a thumbs up now if that's what we're thinking about Thursday. And Hannah wants to comment before you all thumbs up. Go ahead, Hannah.
I just wanted to add that I think what we were really hoping to use Thursday, at least the time for, was to see if you and or your staff are available. What Child Care Aware is offering is to try to do kind of a peer, kind of almost a community practice to get kind of people that have gone through other natural disasters with emergency preparedness, just to kind of help us problem solve with any resources, and or kind of get people that are in our state just having conversations about how it's affecting their work, affecting providers, just to help them kind of process it with that national perspective of resources. And so it wouldn't be required, it could be optional, but I think they have been through a lot of natural disasters with a lot of other states and really help support childcare in those ways. And so I think it could be a big benefit, and this is something that could be continuing. They've offered their support, not just this one time, but continuing out throughout this emergency based off of other natural disasters experiences. So I think, so that's just a caveat, it is an optional thing. So I think it would be just another piece of the pie to just kind of think about as you see, because I do think that when we were beginning the emergency preparedness in an emergency, something like this, that they may have something that might help staff or us kind of process.
It's something that I could probably go to, but I don't think I can get my entire staff there. I mean, it'd be something I'd be willing to go to help and talk about, but definitely.
So, and again, I was sensing that there was some particular conflicts in various areas and potentially around this week, but it doesn't mean that this can't also be an opportunity that we revisit next week. I just didn't want to assume that we could slide this in this quick or not without checking in with you guys. So I'm not sure if we have consensus or not. So how many folks would like us to try and organize that for this Thursday? Give me a raised hand.
Are they willing to do it other times too, or is it this Thursday that they are?
Yeah, they'd be willing to do it a different day. So that's if Thursday is not going to be appropriate for us, then we can move it to the following week. So I don't know if the hand raise things works now that I see that, you know, people turned off their cameras as I was saying that, and I don't know how to count that. So how about folks who feel like this isn't going to work this week? Either chat box or raise your hand. Reschedule for a future week.
John, in looking at the chat box, there's a strong sense that maybe next week might be better.
Great. I appreciate you monitoring that for me. So we can look to schedule something with them for maybe mid to later next week, if that works best. And then for those who are interested in it, it'll still be happening and fairly timely, and hopefully give others a little bit of time to breathe as things are still unfolding. Does that work? All right. So here we are at 11:54, and we really wanted to we gave you the preface to this, and we also wanted to hear how things are going and what is working and what isn't. I would open it up for our last 6 minutes here if anyone has something that they were hoping to make us aware of, seek feedback for.
This is Shannon. I think one of the things that's happening sort of, especially here in town in Salem, is the air quality. And so there's a number of providers that have been shutting down as well as businesses for a day or two. And so I'm almost not recording it because one's opening and then they're shutting and they're opening and shutting, and it's just almost impossible. But I just want to know that's sort of going on too, that because of air quality, many centers or family childcare are closing for the day or during this period. But as it gets better, hopefully during this week, that will change.
Thanks, Shannon. And I think that definitely is showing up even in the online form. A lot of programs just temporarily closed in some of the level 2 and even in level 1 areas, just because of the tremendous amounts of smoke. Other thoughts, comments?
My only other one was another question. Sorry, I'm hogging. Providers are asking what number is a good number to let kids out to play, and I said, I'm saying look on the websites and look for the average, which is about 0 to 50 is when it's good quality. But I don't think there's a rule out there that says you can't take kids out there at whatever number. But they are asking what is a good average number, and yeah, I don't know what the average. I haven't looked that up yet, but
yeah, I think Tammy may be chiming in, and then Carrie.
Yeah, John, we posted a link in our wildfire section that the link didn't go directly to the document, but there was a document within the link that was exact guidelines about different air quality and when you should go out. So I'm trying to see, it's in our FAQ when it says when outdoor air quality is poor, what precautions do I take? And then there's a link within that, which I feel like still didn't take us to the really good document that I wanted, but that link was like huge. No, that's not the one. I'm going to look for it, John, and if I find it, I'll send it to you that you can distribute it.
Excellent. Thank you, Tammy. And go ahead, Carrie.
Yesterday, this conversation came up with some Multnomah County emergency management folks, and they were wondering, I feel like they wanted like a public service announcement for childcare providers is what they were really looking for, or some kind of like something with that same type of information, like when is it going, what number is safe, and guidelines for kids right now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll coordinate amongst our team and see if we have additional information that can come out for folks. And let's see, we've got about 3 minutes left here in our time today. Other reflections, comments, needs? Mary, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think it's really reinforced the need for an emergency plan for all providers. When you have somebody who has to leave with their children in care, it really brings it home. So I think maybe in a month or so, it's good to revisit all that with providers.
That's an important aspect. Thanks, Mary. And I think giving them time to regroup, but also realize that, you know, there's many areas here in Oregon where we didn't think this was an issue that we would need to address, and we now know it's a huge reality. And so those emergency plans are absolutely critical.
Just want to say that I think actually Tammy and I and some others were exchanging emails this morning about the need for more emergency preparedness training. And we need to make sure everyone has a plan, a good, solid plan. So we're going to definitely be revisiting this. All of us need to be talking about it and making a plan for how we're going to move forward. I think, you know, the pandemic was the same thing, Mary. It just revealed, like, in some ways, you know, I think a lot of thought was given to things like earthquakes. But not necessarily some of these other factors that we now understand are just more of the reality. And then how do we have, you know, childcare providers really feeling ready, you know, no matter what comes? How are we helping people do that? And, you know, we don't want anyone to feel scared all the time or anything. Like, that's not the point. It's feeling ready. Like, we know what to do. We know how to keep ourselves and the children safe.
Thanks, Joan. And I just will mention that Jessica gave us a nice resource in the chat box to a PDF that discusses several, it's a fact sheet around wildfire and smoke. Shannon, go ahead.
I was wondering, maybe in our annual surveys, the ELD, you know, gave us like 7 questions that were, you know, mandatory or required. And when we do those, should we think about adding in some questions into our annual survey about emergency preparedness? I've done some in the past, but, you know, not often sure what all the questions to ask, but is that something we could think about adding to this survey?
I think that's something we should all talk about together. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Shannon. All right, we're at 1 minute past. That was a big agenda, lots of information today. And again, just want to echo Joan's sentiments around everyone being willing to express their current state of mind, feelings, and put themselves out there in their vulnerability. We truly are all in this together, and I know that all of us want to support in whatever ways make most sense. And so I know we didn't get to dive deep into areas that specific regions may need additional supports, but do not hesitate to reach out to your peers as with CCRNRs, or straight to ELD and TRI, as we will be also trying to figure out how to get whether that's mobilizing to support, as TRI has done recently with their people power, or other resources that can be developed and provided to you and your teams. So do not hesitate to put things forward, and we'll continue to support you as much as we possibly can. So thank you all today for your time, and we will see you all soon. Take care.